Hybrid warfare is a new name for an old game. It is a modern strategy that mixes different types of conflict together. Think of it not as a single clear-cut war, but as a campaign fought on many fronts at once. The goal is to weaken an adversary without necessarily starting a full-scale military invasion. This approach uses a blend of conventional military power, irregular tactics like guerrilla warfare, and even criminal activities. It is a messy, complex, and often confusing form of struggle. The lines between peace and war become deliberately blurred, making it difficult for a target nation to know exactly how to respond effectively. This style of conflict is fundamentally different from traditional warfare. In the past, wars were primarily fought between uniformed armies on defined battlefields. There were declarations of war, clear enemies, and established rules of engagement. Hybrid warfare throws these old rules out the window. It operates in the gray zone, a space that is neither fully peace nor fully war. Instead of tanks rolling across a border, the first signs of conflict might be a cyber attack on a country's power grid, a disinformation campaign on social media, or political protests funded by a foreign power. It is a slow, corrosive process designed to undermine a state from within. The primary objective of hybrid warfare is not to conquer territory with brute force, but to destabilize a society and achieve political goals. This can involve creating chaos, eroding public trust in government, and manipulating political outcomes. For example, an aggressor might use propaganda to deepen existing social divisions within a target country, making it harder for people to unite against a common threat. They might also use economic pressure such as trade sanctions or controlling energy supplies to coerce a government into making decisions it otherwise would not. This makes the conflict less about military victory and more about political submission. We see this strategy in action across the globe today. The tactics are tailored to the specific vulnerabilities of the target nation. One country might be susceptible to economic coercion, while another might have deep ethnic or political fissures that can be easily exploited. An adversary using hybrid methods will carefully study its target to find these weak points. The ultimate weapon is not a missile or a bomb, but a deep understanding of the enemy's society. The goal is to turn a country's own strengths, like an open media or a diverse population, into critical weaknesses that can be used against it. This is warfare played as a long game of chess, not a quick game of checkers. In this new era of conflict, the battlefield is no longer a distant physical place. It is everywhere. The concept of a whole-of-society conflict means that every aspect of a nation's life can become a target or a tool. This includes its economy, its infrastructure, its culture, and its people. The front line is not just on the border, it runs through corporate boardrooms, university campuses, and social media feeds. An aggressor understands that a modern state is a complex system. To weaken it, one does not need to destroy its army. One only needs to disrupt the delicate balance that holds its society together and functioning. Consider how non-military actors become central to this struggle. Businesses, for instance, can be both victims and unwilling participants. A foreign state might launch a cyber attack against a nation's banking system to create financial panic and disrupt the economy. Alternatively, a foreign-owned company operating within the target country could be used to gather intelligence or exert political influence. Even cultural institutions can be weaponized. An aggressor might fund films, news outlets, or online influencers to promote a specific narrative that serves its interests, slowly shaping public opinion over months or even years without firing a single shot. Everyday people are also brought into the conflict, often without their knowledge. A simple act like sharing a news article on social media can become part of a larger disinformation campaign. If the article is fake but emotionally charged, it can spread like wildfire, deepening political polarization and eroding trust in established institutions like the government or the media. Citizens are no longer just bystanders in a war fought by soldiers. They are now active participants whose beliefs, actions, and trust are the very territory being contested. Their perceptions and loyalties are the ultimate prize in this form of warfare. This whole-of-society approach requires a new kind of defense. A strong military is still necessary, but it is no longer sufficient on its own. A nation must also build resilience in its civilian sectors. This means improving cybersecurity for critical infrastructure, promoting media literacy to help citizens spot disinformation, and strengthening social cohesion to make the country less vulnerable to divisive propaganda. Protecting a nation now means protecting its entire social fabric. The responsibility for national security is no longer just in the hands of soldiers and spies. It is shared by everyone, from government officials to business leaders and ordinary citizens. The human terrain is a critical concept for understanding modern conflict. It refers to the social, cultural, and political landscape of a population. It is the complex web of relationships, beliefs, grievances, and loyalties that define a community or an entire nation. In traditional warfare, generals studied maps of physical terrain, mountains, rivers, and forests. In hybrid warfare, strategists must map the human terrain. They need to understand what people care about, what they fear, who they trust, and what might motivate them to act. This is because people themselves are the central gravity of the conflict. Mastering the human terrain is essential for an attacker using hybrid methods. An adversary will invest heavily in understanding the target society's pressure points. They will identify existing social divides, whether they are based on ethnicity, religion, politics, or economic status. Then, they will craft messages and actions designed to exploit these divisions. For example, they might use propaganda to amplify the voices of extremist groups, or spread rumors that a particular minority group is a threat to national security. The goal is to turn citizens against each other, making the society ungovernable and unable to mount a unified defense against external aggression. This focus on the human terrain explains why information warfare is so prominent. Disinformation, propaganda, and conspiracy theories are the preferred weapons because they operate directly on this terrain. They are not designed to convince everyone, but to confuse enough people to sow doubt and paralysis. When citizens do not know what is true or who to trust, it becomes very difficult for a society to make collective decisions. This erosion of shared reality is a key objective. It weakens a nation from the inside out, making it more susceptible to manipulation and control without the need for a costly and risky military invasion. For the defender, understanding their own human terrain is just as vital. A government must know its people's genuine concerns and grievances to avoid them being exploited by an outside power. Building national resilience means strengthening the bonds of trust between the state and its citizens. It involves transparent communication, responsive governance, and fostering a strong sense of national identity that transcends internal divisions. In the end, the most effective defense against hybrid warfare is a society that is well-informed, socially cohesive, and confident in its own institutions. The war for the human terrain is won by building trust, not by spreading fear. The concepts of hybrid warfare, the whole of society battlefield, and the human terrain are not separate ideas. They are deeply interconnected parts of a single, evolving form of conflict. Hybrid warfare is the overarching strategy, the plan to win without fighting a conventional war. This strategy is executed on a whole-of-society battlefield, where every part of a nation from its economy to its culture is in play. And the key to success on this expanded battlefield is mastering the human terrain, understanding and influencing the people who make up that society. Each concept builds upon the others to create a comprehensive picture of modern geopolitical struggle. Imagine an adversary wants to weaken a neighboring country. Using a hybrid warfare playbook, they avoid a direct military attack. Instead, they target the whole of society. They might start by launching cyber attacks against the nation's banks on the economic front, while secretly funding protest movements on the political front. At the same time, they deploy armies of social media bots to spread disinformation, the information front. All these actions are designed to manipulate the human terrain. The goal is to make citizens lose faith in their government, their economy, and even each other, thereby achieving the aggressor's political objectives without ever declaring war. This integrated approach makes responding incredibly difficult. If a country is hit by a cyber attack, is it an act of war or a criminal enterprise? If a news story causing social unrest is traced back to a foreign source, how does a government respond without looking like it is censoring free speech? Hybrid tactics are deliberately designed to be ambiguous, to keep the target nation off balance and unsure of how to react. This ambiguity paralyzes decision-making. The defender is always one step behind, trying to solve a series of seemingly unrelated crises while the attacker quietly advances its strategic goals. Understanding these interconnected ideas is crucial for everyone in the 21st century. The nature of conflict has changed, and the security of a nation no longer depends solely on its military. It depends on the resilience of its institutions, the savviness of its businesses, and the critical thinking skills of its citizens. Recognizing that you are on a battlefield, even when you are just scrolling through your phone or discussing politics with a neighbor, is the first step. In this new era, security is a collective responsibility. Being aware of how these forces work is the best defense against them, ensuring that societies can remain open, stable, and sovereign in a complex world.